Thanks for tuning in to another episode of PSL on the Mic, the City of Port St. Lucie's official podcast. Hi, Jennifer Davis.
Hi, Maureen Kenyon.
We're here again, third time, and we're going to talk about, you're the CRA Director.
I am.
And we're going to talk about something that I think our residents have been waiting to hear about. It was announced a couple weeks ago, the Port District and the restaurants.
Yeah, we had a really great opportunity announcing kind of where we are with the restaurant. You know, we went into a lease agreement a few years ago as we started to develop the site, and we had these expectations of kind of what the restaurant was going to become. And we were in the middle of a pandemic at that time, and we were going to be building.
Was that long ago?
It was that long ago.
Oh my gosh.
We were still like in the pandemic phase, and we were building the park site at the same time. And part of our obligation to the restaurant developer was to develop a pad-ready site.
Okay.
So we knew through a series of public engagement and like the Citizen Summit, you know, all the great things we do to interact with the public, that they really were looking for restaurants in this area as well as the recreational opportunities. So as we developed the park site, we reserved a pad for a restaurant, and we sought out restaurant groups. Again, pandemic time was probably not the best time to try to get a restaurant developer to come in.
Yeah.
But we were able to partner with somebody who has a really great vision for kind of connecting people with the river and very eco-centric type development, very much into like the farm to table experience, sourcing local, things like that. So over the past, let's see, we opened the park and everything last year with Port Fest. So over the last year or so, once that site was turned over to the developer, they've been working through the permitting process, kind of refining their plans, working with our team, with our public works and our utilities, and I mean, just
Parks.
everybody, and making sure that that restaurant will be laid out on the site properly and kind of how it's developed. So what it's evolved into is like a 15,000 square foot culinary experience. And it's not one big building, but it's a series of smaller buildings. I would think of it as kind of like maybe a deconstructed food hall. So you have kind of, different dining options. So, Maureen, you want to go and have, burgers, and I want to have sushi, and we can sit and dine together, even if we're not, eating the same food.
So is there like a one big restaurant and then smaller ones and then there's an area where you can commune and eat together?
Yep, exactly. Well, so last week, I guess now maybe it was a couple weeks ago when we had that announcement, it's going to be called The Grove.
Okay.
So in the Port District, we'll have The Grove. And it will have one main restaurant, which is going to be a 2-story dining experience based on more of the seafood type. And we called it, there was a reference to it of like fine dining without being like fine dining, like really good food without having to be fine dining. This isn't white tablecloths.
Right, and seriously, who wants that?
Right.
I don't.
Well, there's a time and place for that, but not at this experience.
Yep. Right.
And so focused on, again, connecting people with the river, with the community. It'll have a 2nd-story rooftop dining experience. And that one's really cool because it's going to be called Salt River.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I have the list here.
And that's, really curated food for Port St. Lucie, not necessarily picking up food from, what you would see at any other chain, just things that are curated, and I think that's cool. And that name was derived out of the fact that our river is brackish, so it is a mix of fresh and salt water. So we thought that was a nice combination. And that building, that building will be right there near the banyan tree, not blocking it, but kind of just a little offset from it, so you have really great views of the banyan tree.
So all the green area that's there now, that will remain.
So that green area is where the main restaurant will be, and then we'll get into the little quads.
Okay.
So they call them quads. And there's 2 that are going to be built with the first phase. So the first phase will have the main restaurant. It'll have all the kitchen stuff, back of house, restrooms, things like that. It'll be accessible to the whole park. And then it'll have two smaller venues. One is Italian Disco, which is pizza and Italian subs and things like that, with a really cool 70s music theme.
Oh, I love this.
Right? It was so fun.
Old folks.
Right. So fun to share that with council because it really just was a great concept. And I'll speak to this in a few minutes about the partnership group that they're with, but this has been a proven really cool place to go.
So is it somewhere else too?
It is. There's one other place, so I'll get into that.
Okay.
And then another one is called Cannon, and that's more of like an Asian fusion. We'll have sushi offerings, but kind of that, not so much just a sushi restaurant or just it's going to have some offerings. So between those two and the quad, and maybe we can cut in, I don't know, or we can attach kind of that site plan that they showed, is called the Grove Bar.
Okay.
So that'll be a curated kind of beverage experience for adults. I don't call it.
Okay.
It's a bar.
It's a bar. That's okay.
No, it's really, I think they've expanded on kind of what that could be. So you can go, again, maybe we'll take Gus with us this time.
Gus, you want to go?
Gus, you want to go?
Okay, thumbs up.
So, again, get some food, have some drinks, and be together without being in separate necessary, like areas.
Beer, wine, the whole
everything.
local beer, I hope?
I would hope so too.
Good.
I think it would be really great for them with as much effort as they're putting into, that kind of local flair. I think with the beverage, I would expect that as well. And then, so that kind of takes up the 4 main things that are getting built. I don't want to say main, 4 of the things getting built in phase 1.
Right.
The 5th being the Tiki Bar. So the vision.
Spell that for me.
TEQUI.
Yes, it's not TIKI.
No, I think originally the vision was a true like tiki bar.
Right.
But what they've done is they've kind of developed it based on a tequila kind of platform. So the drinks, again, will be curated out of, some of the tequila side.
Okay.
Really great location. If you're familiar with the site and you come in the roundabout, we talked about the big lawn area. Just on the south side of that, there's a small plot that overlooks the river, and that's where that's going to go. And I just think it's a great location.
Perfect.
End of day, go watch the sunset, watch the boats coming up and down the river. So it was really exciting to share that, and even more so, the developer has partnered with the Atlas Restaurant Group. So they're out of Baltimore, and they have a wonderful presence there. A lot of proven track record around the country with restaurants and different venues. So we think that it's a really good partnership. If anybody's interested in going back and watching that meeting, it was the CRA meeting at the end of June, and it just really showed like what the site can be.
It was a little bit more in depth than we're probably going to get into here.
Definitely.
And there's photos and
Right.
Graphics of the area and what it's going to look like. So
Yeah.
I'll attach that to the show notes.
Yeah, that's great. And that's just phase 1. So there is a proposed phase 2 as part of their site plan, which would have 2 additional restaurant pods.
And that we don't know about yet.
Well, they did announce, so they said their initial plan is to include some sort of Mediterranean type flair and a grill. So, you get kind of the burger side and you'd also have a Mediterranean flair. But they're also being very responsible, and they're going to look at how things are playing out with the restaurants here and then make some decisions on committing to what those restaurants are going to be. So we like that. We like that they're not just like, oh, we're going to put all these in and just see how it goes. They're really going to kind of follow the market and see what works.
Okay, that sounds like a great idea, especially things are changing constantly in the world right now. So I think you touched on it a bit, but you like the whole innovative dining thing. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that. Like, what's that going to encompass?
Well, I think, now are you speaking to the dining or the food itself? Like us eating together?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of, we've seen that trend a lot in the market, to not have just a freestanding one-off restaurant, like, okay, we're going to go here and just eat at this one restaurant, to have different culinary experiences, because you can go to the same site multiple times now and have different culinary experiences each time. And some people may not be seafood people. And so we know that there's still other options there on site for them. And I think that's really a great approach. This really came out of the pandemic of kind of deconstructing things and not making it so finite. For like full transparency, we had some regular chains come in and say, hey, yeah, we'll put one there on the river. And that's not what the city wanted. That's not what our council envisioned. That's not what the public wanted. They wanted something that was truly authentic to Port St. Lucie.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a lot of people coming down here for that experience. Now, it's going to be designed around the park and the playground. I want to make sure that our residents are aware that we've taken the precautions we've taken to the environment around it. Can you touch on that a bit?
That's a great question, because I know there's been a lot of talk about preserving. So when we first developed the site as a park, we had an obligation to fill up the property to make it to a certain elevation, and that was to meet current building code requirements. So we had a restroom building that we had to put on there, and the parking lot. So if we had not built up the site, it kind of would have been just like this platform or plateau out in the middle, and then everything else would have been, 5, 6, even 10 feet down, because the river bulkhead was at about 2 feet, and we're at about 12-foot elevation. So there was a lot of fill brought in. So there were some trees that were removed from the site, and that's what you really notice when you're on the restaurant pad. But as you move into the site, and especially Pioneer Park, you can see how much thought was put into bringing in mature landscaping and trying to tie it in as much to the surrounding environment as possible.
And we're really into the whole natural canopy. Let's just use the shade from trees.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they went out, and I know Brad and I believe Mike from Parks and Rec went up to like North Central Florida and picked out these 40-foot oak trees to come into the site, and it makes such a difference to put them in, because we on a plan you just see it says oak tree,
Right.
but when you
Little
see
green blobs
right,
on-
when you see a 40-foot oak tree come in, that's pretty impressive. So between making sure that environment is protected, and then the developer of the restaurant site is really about having lush, authentic landscaping on this site.
Right.
They have been part of many discussions with our botanical gardens and just kind of the ability to tie in there. So we really expect this to be a site that will, once the buildings are built, the buildings themselves should just fall into the natural environment, and almost you wouldn't even notice them.
it. Okay.
Which I think from an architecture standpoint, I don't know how much architects like that they design these buildings and then they just kind of fade away, but that's really the intent. In the graphics that I've seen, it's like you're really focused on the landscaping and kind of what the site looks like, and what, you and I are sitting across from in the dining area.
Well, and then like the beauty of the river, that's the whole point. That's why we're down in the Port District. So I think it's being planned perfectly the way that it should be.
Well, and one other thing that's coming up, and I think these will happen pretty much simultaneously, is with the Parks Department. They have completed, I want to say they've completed their procurement advertisement for the trail.
I was going to ask about that.
On the preserve. And that site, which is just on the south side of, the park site right now, is intended to just be trails. So there'll be a winding trail that goes through, and right now you already see on the boardwalk, there's a couple connections over there. So it's just going to be a beautiful experience for people to come and enjoy the river, enjoy Eastern Port St. Lucie and the things we have to offer.
Will more parking be added?
So there is parking as part of the site plan for the restaurant. So they will have an obligation to have parking. Now, the entire park site has shared parking, always intended to be kind of one large shared parking area. We're going to look at how, right now it's all stabilized parking, and or some of it may be grass, but we're going to look and see, there may be a point where we need to assess, do we need to pave a little bit more of that? I don't think we want to, just because we love to keep things green as much as possible, but we'll do what we need to improve the parking experience. But I also want to mention that very, very soon, depending on the timing of this podcast being released, we should be completing that boardwalk connection under PSL Bridge, which will open up parking on the north side at Tom Hooper. So, for example, if my husband and I want to come up and have dinner, we can park over there, walk down the boardwalk, have dinner, walk back, because we all need to walk.
Yes, we do.
More steps. That's what I'm going to tell them. But we're super excited about that too. So everything's kind of coming together at one time, which is going to be so exciting for.
I know people have been looking forward to that connection under the bridge for, I think, the entire time I've been at the city so far, 5 years at least.
By far, one of the biggest questions I got up until we started the construction: when are you connecting it? And we are able to amend a contract and get it built. And then the north side flooded, and then we had to rebuild that.
Hooper,
so it was like Murphy's Law, that we were so close and then so far away.
But it's coming, folks. This probably won't drop until next week, so it may already be open by the time when we're speaking about this.
I think they're just completing the railings. I've seen
that's the only thing.
Railings. I know they're fabricated, which is great, but they have to get them in there and actually weld them together.
Yeah, we had the video guys out there doing some time lapse of bringing things in.
They were probably bringing in the span,
the bottom, right?
That's so exciting.
What's the timeline on this area here
for the Grove?
Yes.
So at the meeting, the developer announced that they would like to break ground probably September timeframe,
Okay.
They need to finish their permitting process. So that's something, that they need to work on and get through the different agencies that regulate the permitting, which is not just the city. They have fire department and things like that. Get a groundbreaking going. So we'll have to look forward to that.
Another little event.
Yep. And then I think they have indicated that they'll be done by the end of 26 with kind of their first phase. But they will use that opportunity probably for a soft opening, getting their teams kind of trained up on everything. Because, once they build their building, they still have to go through another regulatory process to get all of their licensure for, liquor licenses and their food licenses and all that.
Right.
So there'll probably be a transition period. So right now we're looking early 2027, I would say, for like the full opening. I do know that if they can get anything done sooner, they will, because they're so excited to get things open for the public.
And what about phase 2?
Phase 2. So
obviously, when phase 1 is finished, but
Yep. So what they want to do is kind of observe
and see how it goes.
See how it goes.
Okay.
And not that they don't want to do it, but they want to say, okay, we're going to see how the trending is here. What are we missing? And then they'll start their piece on phase 2. What they will be required to do is complete kind of all of their infrastructure for phase 2 with phase 1.
Oh,
so
good.
when they come in, it should be minimal construction on that, as opposed to what's going to happen in phase 1, where there's a lot more infrastructure work.
So we are all about engaging with our residents, and this is one thing that they have wanted for a long, long time.
Right.
There's tons of people love Pioneer Park. They just, and especially at Christmas time when we have the lights there, it was beautiful. What is this kind of, I don't want to say it's like the end of it, but this is going to be like the completion of our vision that they shared with us. What is this going to mean for our residents, plus I'm sure the rest of the Treasure Coast and even farther away? Yeah,
I know that as far away as South Palm Beach County, I know that our park has been talked about, because I heard about it at a council meeting down there. I was like, I heard about your park, and I thought that's really cool. And it's not my park, it's our park as a city. So when we complete the restaurant and do that and the preserve track, so get that done, that kind of does complete what the original vision was for this part of the Port District. But what we also have is a governing document called the Port District Master Plan, and it envisions a bunch of other projects in the Port District, nothing like what you're seeing here, but more trails.
The walkable trails through
all the way up towards
Morning.
Landgate. Yep, all the way up there. And it does have, I think we're doing a little bit of work at the boat ramp. We're going to be redoing kind of the configuration of how the parking is at the boat ramp.
At Veterans
Park, at Rivergate.
Rivergate. Okay.
Yeah, so you'll see that going on. So these are, some is maintenance or kind of just improving what's there, and others will be additional connections. And we love that we can, provide people other ways to connect with nature. And I think Upland Trails in that area, so wonderful.
And with Naturally PSL now, too, we're trying to preserve as much green space that we can. That's why my voice is a little kind of deep, because we were screaming.
Say it with me.
All America City. We're an All America City. Port St. Lucie is an All America City. So we were there this past week, and I'm screaming. I have no voice. So sorry, folks. How excited are you about this?
I'm really excited. It's a funny backstory on this. Before I started work for the city, I had come up here, and I knew I was going to be interviewing for a position. And I was like, let me go kind of check out what Port St. Lucie is. And I had gone over to the east side near where Walton and One is. It was formerly known as City Center. And then my husband and I had come over, and we parked right in the middle of this park. I'm like, what is this property? It had the houses there. They had just been relocated, for the Historical Society. Nothing had happened to them yet. And not knowing that this was going to be one of the biggest projects that I had the privilege of working on with Parks and Rec. I mean, it's been wonderful. It's one of those projects that touches all ages, just everything. I mean, we have, again, I just mentioned, but the historic homes and that refurbishment, working with the botanical gardens and just continuing their efforts, and the park site. So, I mean, for us, it's really exciting. It's not redevelopment going and redoing buildings or developing an area like Walton and One that is coming up.
Right.
It's a different type of development. And we're really fortunate that we get to work on all sorts of different projects. I have, Frank working with me out west and doing road work and stuff. I mean, so it's everything that we get to work on. It's really fun.
Good. I'm glad. I'm so excited for this. I think it's going to be wonderful for the city. The residents are going to be really excited about it. We shared information this past week on social, and there's a lot of really great feedback. So it's going to be great. So we look forward to this around September, maybe, possibly, starting groundbreaking and stuff.
You know, Maureen, you brought up something really good about the lights at Christmas time, and it was so great. We went out and walked it last year, and I was like, yep, this is really something special. So we're going to try to figure out how to continue that experience. I mean, the restaurant area, while it's under construction, will have construction fencing, but we're not going to limit access to the river. So people will still have access to get down there, still walk around the site. So I really think that that's something to look forward to this winter as well.
Do we miss anything? Is there anything you want to add?
Let's see.
Any news we're going to break or something?
Well,
no, not yet.
While I have you.
Oh, okay.
No, I just wanted to also mention something that I think to me is so noticeable on the site, and I hope other people notice it, but it's our restroom building out there, and we have an artist on site, and she's like our resident artist, Brenda Lee, and she has been transforming what is a CXT normal park restroom at any park, you know, around the whole country into this beautiful mural of like river life. And it's so amazing to watch. So if anybody's out at the park, you know, she definitely welcomes people to come and talk to her. And she's a great steward. She loves to talk about the city and loves to talk about nature. Just really wonderful. So that's a project that's going to take a little bit of time to finish, because if you notice, she's not just painting a mural, she's like building the building with concrete layers and doing individual fishes that'll get blown and I don't know, all the kiln stuff. Like
wow.
Yeah, it's going to have a lot of depth to it. It'll be very tactile for people to really connect with the river. So that's something that's out there. I don't know, you know, it's depending on the time of day that you go out, you may or may not catch her, but she's a wonderful artist and really great person.
And what's her name again?
Brenda Lee.
Brenda Lee.
She's done a lot of things in this region. She's done a lot of things in Stewart. She did the restroom building at Stewart Beach. And then there's one at Memorial Park in downtown Stewart that's beautiful as well. We're so fortunate that she's working on this project with us. So I do want to mention that, and I want to mention the Historical Society. We've really had a great partnership with them. Their museum, you know, is open during the week, and I think on Saturdays as well. And just a great opportunity to learn about our very, you know, short history in Port St. Lucie, but really how...
But it's our history.
It's our history, and it's so unique. I mean, when you tell people about it, you know, I think even the Vice Mayor mentioned it in our All-America City presentation about just how we were just an idea on somebody's desk, and that's how our city got built, but we're not like that anymore.
No, and just how far we've come from the 64 years ago? Yes, 64.
Did the math, yes. But as far as CRA, we do have some other things coming up that we look forward to, some really great announcements coming soon.
I have a feeling you'll be on podcast again then.
Yeah, there's some things to talk about for sure. So we're excited for that, but we're always here if anybody has questions for us.
Thank you so much for coming here. What?
I was also told to wear a jean jacket today. Okay. So I wore my jean jacket, and you did not wear your
I did not wear my jean jacket. Well, thank you for representing. At least
pleasure.
One jean jacket is
per
now
podcast?
per podcast is there. If I know we have fans that love the jeans jacket.
If we want to date ourselves, we would have like the little pins. Would you remember like the 80s and stuff you'd get?
I believe I have a pin on mine.
Oh, you do?
But it's the City of Port St. Lucie logo.
Well,
so I can add my All-America City pin to it too.
Right. Awesome.
Jen, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
I'll put all the information in the show notes for everybody. So yeah, we're really looking forward to this, and go down to Pioneer Park and the port and visit right now. It's beautiful. The weather's a little warm.
It is a little warm.
However, it's a great place to take the kiddies to run off that all that pent up stuff from being here in the summer and not school. So
we'll
see you soon, Jen, I'm sure.
Thanks. We'll see you soon. Maureen.
Thank you.
Take care.